All right, so I want to thank each and every one of you, those that are on streaming. We've got your entries in here, and we appreciate it. Appreciate all the donations, whether they were small or large, and we had some really large ones, and I thank each one of them personally. I really do. We didn't quite make it, but we made it. 2/3 of it were like $63,500. Give yourself a hand. Really, I appreciate it. All right, so we're starting from 4th place and going to 1st place. Boris, the tax man, my CPA, has offered a $5,000 voucher to do some tax planning for you. I've already done this one time.
Do you want me to help you out? All right.
Reach in there and get somebody. Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
All right. Close. All you.
Christine Cumby. All right, look at you, lucky girl. You need that? You got it?
This is so fun.
All right. This is for what?
This is for 1 year of
One year of Pilmma Gold membership, or if you're a mastermind, we'll apply it. Reach in deep. All right. Monty Kane, C-A-I-N. Are you here? All right. You got that? Thank you. They'll be contacting you.
Okay.
We'll send a card for you. Thank you. All right. This is for a one-day free consult with me, valued at over $12,000, where you come to Myrtle Beach and pick my brain all day. On my boat, if you want to. Dig in. Greg Ward. He could probably teach me something. Thank you, Greg. Is he here? I think he's inside. I think he's in the working. Grand prize, a mastermind. Full year membership worth over $20-something thousand. Go in there. Yeah. Greg Ward. He, you know what? Greg Ward give $10,000. So, you know, I guess that's how he got it. All right, let's give him a hand. I'll go give him the good news. Thank you. Listen, we put some things on your table, did we? So, event evaluation, like I said, we need those. Also, you have on your table, if you want to get super discounts, I've got the Internet Boot Camp that's coming up. It's going to be $19.97. I got it for what, $600-$700? I can't remember. Or you can do both, the summit, or you can do either one. But it's like probably over 50% discount if you do it before you leave here today and just hand it into the front desk. But anyway, no pressure. Just offering, for you coming here, I'm offering you a big, deep discount. That will not be offered after today. Well, maybe tomorrow because of that deal going on. But after tomorrow, it will not be after we walk out of here Thursday night, we're through with that. It'll be a lot higher. There's the man. Come up here. You won the first and second prize.
First and second prize. Thank you. All glory to God. That was oh my God. I'm serious. It happens every time. Thank you. What would I win?
Yeah. You won. You got a mastermind for a year, and you get a day with me.
Oh, that's even better. You coming to Miami?
You coming to me? Oh. Although I might go to Miami.
I'll fly to Miami.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right, brother. Thank y'all so much. All right. We got, what, 3 more speakers? We saved the best for last. Listen, 3-packs where it's at. You need to really listen to this because it's always changing. It's like that moving train. So I'll let my man here introduce him.
Wow.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. All right, our next speaker is no stranger to Pilmma. He's been here for a long time. But I had to actually look up what he was going to be speaking about because, again, I'm not an internet marketer, but I looked it up, and it's about Google 3-packs. I'm not going to tell you what it is. If you don't know, you're going to learn some valuable information. Will you please help me welcome to the stage with a robust round of applause, Mr. Seth Price.
Thank you so much. Oh, great. Okay, this is Nalini Prasad, our Chief Strategist at BluShark. Thank you, Ken. I can't believe it's 11th year here at the Pilmma Summit, and so many great friends in the room. You know, a lot going on with Google. You know, for those of you who know me well, I geek out on the internet portion of marketing, so much so that I built my own law firm in DC, Price Benowitz, from 2 to 40-plus lawyers now, through primarily digital, no TV. And 7 years ago, took my digital team out, and with great people like Nalini, we're able to service hundreds of law firms around the country at BluShark Digital. Ken asked us to speak today about what is the hottest topic right now in digital marketing, which is local search. It's the area that's had the most changes of late, and for those of you that are live and die in a single event practice, it is the area that you're focused on. The 3-pack, all-important 3-pack, is the area where you get high-quality calls that convert to cases. So much time and attention is put into this area, and today we're going to walk through what's happened in the last 6 months, which over the years, when we've been here, we've always talked about organic search and content and links, and they're still really, really important. But what's going on with local search is, for the first time in a very long time, we've seen movement there, and there are things that can be done to improve your ROI.
Awesome, and God knows I can talk, so I'm going to ask for a 10-minute warning when we get down to it. So if we can get the slide deck up, we'll kind of jump right into this. There we go. We like this to be as much value for you guys as possible, so we welcome questions, but we're also around after if you have a question you want to ask specifically about your firm. Let's see, here we go. All right, so local search, as Ken just said, everything changes so much so quickly, right? So as much as that we are updating these slide decks just the night before to make sure we're putting as much information as possible in here. So we had this big vicinity update happen in November of last year, and as usual, Google sends out a little tweet that means absolutely nothing to us. They just say, shots fired, shit's about to go down, but they don't tell you anything about what that is, right? So then a bunch of nerds get together who have access to maybe hundreds of Google My Business profiles across the country. We look at that aggregate data, and we figure out what really happened. And then we get on a plane, we come to New Orleans, we have a lot of fun, and then we teach you what that's all about. So here we go. What basically happened is we can see them in these grids, and for a lot of you, you probably are familiar with what these are, but if you look at the center of this grid, that is where your office is. These green marks tell you that you're in the 3-pack. The yellow means you're a little bit outside of the 3-pack. Red means you got a little bit of work. You're probably ranking 10 to 20, right? So what you can see is before the vicinity update happened, some firms who were working really hard on their SEO were able to reach quite a distance from their office. You can see all that
essentially
green.
Something could dominate a city.
Mm-hmm.
Before, like this is what was so significant. We're used to the algorithm changing for organic, but all of a sudden, people that were fat and happy owning a market, all of a sudden overnight, that was not the case.
And you see that in the next, right? So in the top left corner, you see some red. They're no longer ranking there. And what happened was firms that were physically located in that area were now showing. There were 3-packs in many areas in this one market, right? So essentially, when you talk about what else is going on here, you see that Google has actually changed the viewpoint that they're looking at. They used to look at a wider space when they were trying to find an answer for their searcher. You can see now that it is a much smaller square that they're looking at. But also, you have 3 results, but you can see that there's 5 pins in that map, right? So someone on a phone actually could click on those pins, and it's not just the top 3 that are getting visibility, essentially, but the top 5. So at the end of the day, you're looking at how does this 3-pack actually look? And I will tell you one thing here is that people always say, well, I just need to get reviews. I just need to do local. I don't need to do anything with my website. That has nothing to do with it. Well, what you can see in this December 8th edition is underneath the results, this was a personal injury search. you'll see that it says website mentions car accident lawyer, website mentions automobile accident lawyer. Content absolutely matters, right? Because Google's pulling that in that 3-pack ranking. So who generally won and lost, if you want to talk a little bit about that?
Dominant players were like, oh my God, I had one office in the middle of downtown, and all of a sudden my volume went, spiked downward. Terrible. People who had been playing sort of the regional office games, something Price Benowitz has done and BluShark has advocated for years, had diversification, and that really ameliorated this hit, and in some cases actually benefited.
Absolutely. So if you had more offices, you were winning a little bit at the end of this situation. So here's the really cool part. When an algo update usually hits, right, it's because the Google bot has gone through and reevaluated your entire site, and it said, okay, overall, you have done the right thing, so I'm going to let you rank higher. Overall, you haven't done the right thing, so I'm going to actually rank you lower. And your favorite answer when you talk to your digital person, well, how can I fix it? We just need some time. Google needs some time, right? In this particular case, for one of the first times ever, there's actually a little bit of a fix here that can help you short term. And that is something that we saw coming since 2018, right? So Google is very much, history repeats itself. So here you guys know everything about the local 3-pack, all the ways to rank, right?
Right, and I think the key here, and Nalini's talked about this for years, if you think of this conceptually, when you want pizza, I'm stealing Nalini's concept, you wanted the closest pizza place that gets you fresh hot pizza. 45 minutes across town, likely not what you're looking for.
Yes.
Google all of a sudden put that same overlay for lawyers, which also doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's what we were dealing with.
So the biggest factor that we saw coming and popping is this proximity. So everybody's talking about the closer you are to the searcher, the more likely you are to show, right? So with these new features, as I said, history repeats itself. It's always 1, 2, 3. First, they release the feature. It's very limited. Then you start to see guidelines come out, and you can do more with that feature. And then you start to see reporting on that feature. And we're saying, okay, well, now that we're reporting, here's how I'm using it to determine who's going to rank. An example for concept's sake. Most of you know about the Google Business Posts now, right? It's just a little blurb you can put on your profile. It's a touch point for your consumer to know what you do. It's a touch point for the Google bot to learn more about you, right? So it came out all the way in 2017. A few months later, you were allowed to do a little bit more with it. 15 months later, you start to see metrics come out, and they're being measured. So now we know for a fact through our own studies that you putting keywords in these posts help you rank, right? So taking that concept and that idea, we look at service areas. Service areas is your answer and your fix to this vicinity update. So going back to 2018, right? We said we've been seeing this forever. This is when it's first released. And
it's frustrating because things like posts, we do it over and over again, and it didn't get a lot of love for quite a while. All of a sudden it kicked in, similar to service areas.
And that is the concept here. It's a game of patience with Google, right? It took from 2018 to November, December 2021 for them to actually make it a ranking factor. But it was slowly getting there. So 2018, it comes out. 2019, you see that the structure of the actual Google map is different. Prior to 2019, when you looked up Los Angeles or Houston, you saw a little red pin. And for a lot of you who have been in the game for a long time, you know that the whole of Los Angeles had 1 3-pack, the whole of Houston had 1 3-pack, and the 3 firms that were doing the best with their SEO near that red pin are the 3 that would show. What we saw here was Google decided, get rid of the red pin, only 3 firms are paying attention to me. I don't like that. That's not a good user experience, right? So now I'm going to make it a red outline, and I'm going to divide LA and Houston into a bunch of markets called service areas. And you can see that they're kind of highlighted there. 2020, we start to see, or 2019 still you're in there, right? You start to see that Google is giving those more features. You're allowed to now put 20 different service areas on the back end of your Google profile, saying, I know my office is here, but I also service all these wonderful neighborhoods with the right demographics for me. All of those service areas are their own 3-pack. That is the important part to realize here, right? So now we get into a very early study, and this is where I think we divided, where SEOs that were paying attention caught on to something, and those who weren't kind of followed a trend. So early on, we had somebody very smart come out and say, look, my office is in the middle. I'm going to put a service area into this profile. But look, I'm not ranking. I'm still red, right? Service areas don't work. This is wrong. Then SEO said, all right, well, this means proximity is most important. wherever your office is, you will only rank in X miles around it. No, hold on, let's take a step back. Let's think about what this really showed. They were looking at ranking for higher level, very competitive keywords. So yes, far away from their office, they didn't rank for car accident lawyer, right? But what about got a neck injury, need a lawyer? A long tail keyword, something that's less competitive. They didn't check for that, right? So we did our own little study in 2020, and what you can see here on the left is that the office is in the bottom left of that grid, right? For the more competitive keywords, they were not reaching further into city center, into that St. Louis area. They weren't. But if you looked up keywords that were long tail, you'll see there's significantly more green further from the office. Service areas worked.
So just to be clear, injury lawyer, you really need to have the office. Something that was a longer tail keyword, you could get a greater breadth with a strong website.
So there was the caveat, and people who capitalized on that were still going to be able to rank further and get those cases, right? So the other thing that we saw here after the study there is that Google kept doing things now forward-facing with these service areas. So now you're like, all right, we're getting closer to where this is going to be a real thing. You can see on the Google My Businesses, on the front end, while your address might be White Plains, and a lot of you may see this if you look up your profile right now, above that, Google tells you what red outline, what service area it believes you're a part of, right? That's where you're going to rank. That's your 3-pack. Now, how do I get outside of just it thinking I'm only Westchester County or whatever it is? And then we saw even further, Google came up with a line item, and this is not on every profile yet, it's still rolling out, but you'll see there's actually something that says area served, so the consumer can see where exactly do you have, maybe not an office, but that you'll actually deal with people from there, right? So service areas obviously were a big deal. As we get into now, what is the grid really saying? It is not saying that you cannot rank further from your office, but if you're in the center of this where it says Washington, right? You can see that right north of your office, you're not ranking because it is saturated. There are, yeah, you want to talk about this.
So like this is DC, right? So where we have an office, we rank, but let's say DuPont Circle, where our office is not, that is saturated with lawyers. So that little area right there, injury lawyer, is going to be almost impossible to win that immediate square footage without an office, but everything around it, even beyond it, you can get to.
And that top left is exactly what he's talking about. He can rank for keywords further out because there are not other firms located there. It is not saturated, right? So now, if you lost, how do you fix your life? What do you do? It depends on what you're trying to do. If you are trying to fix your one office location that was mega, had a lot of regional presence, then you just need to find the strategic service areas where other firms are not. Add that to your Google business profile, and in short term, we're seeing results by just doing that. Obviously, you need to do so much more to make sure that your profile is actually ranking and all that good stuff, but for people who are actually trying to scale their business and to get bigger and grow, which I would assume everyone who comes to Pilmma is doing that, right? You want to leverage what just happened in November. You want to figure out how can I open more office locations and really, really expand my reach. So this is Seth's world, the how do you open offices, what is really the play there, right?
Right, and this is sort of an example, a case study we did that a pin on the map changed the dynamic. It's that simple. Authoritative website doesn't take a lot more than if you want to be downtown, you can't do it without that pin on the map.
Yep. And that was kind of just the same one with the keywords. As soon as you put it there, you saw the green light up. But that was also only because they had a very good build out, right? In terms of their domain authority. You're not going to just roll in as a brand new website and see that kind of results. So then ways that you can.
Right, and I'd say the number one thing people have talked to me over the years, we've had all, sort of started out with questions about organic SEO, local is clearly where it's at. We're getting more and more questions about offices, how do you get one, how do you make sure it's not suspended, all of those good things. But the fundamentals, I assume everybody here knows, executive suite's very, very risky. Google knows where they are. Making sure that if you are doing something with somebody else in the building, you're aware only one type of law will be shown at one address. I know it makes no sense, but if there's another dominant PI lawyer and you're going into that building, it's going to be an uphill battle. If you're going to co-share with a friend and you're pretty strong, you're going to end up wiping them out and they're going to be pissed. So keep that in mind, that if you want it to stick, especially if somebody challenges it, commercial signage, super important. But as everything we're talking about here, strategically figuring out, I like to call it Moneyball, where's the population, where's the competition, and where can you get an office that will bring in more cases?
And we are absolutely saying that satellite offices, more offices, is the way to grow digitally. But Seth and Nalini did not come up here and tell you to just go put a pin somewhere randomly and break all of Google's rules, right? There are definitely a list of 6 or 7 items that you need to make sure you're passing the smell test, or else you do risk getting suspended. It is a very specific process, and you want to be very strategic about what you're doing, right? And we have a guide on that too, which we're happy to share.
And so this is one where, you know, people here, and again, every single market, you know, there was, until this proximity update, spam or exact match in terms in the name of your firm worked tremendously. It was a huge factor, and we saw a lot of spam come into the market. Very hard to, Jeffrey's shaking his head up front. Many markets, you saw Russian bots. It was really, really bad. This update has ameliorated that. There's much, much less of an effect. That said, Whitespark just did a study which is saying while, and it's bouncing back, while it's not as powerful as it was before, having an injury, accident, or a location in name is still a factor that will benefit you, at least for now. And I sort of equate some of these changes, for those of you who got early Pilmmas, there was a point where Google said, if you have an exact match URL, right, like California injury lawyer, there was a point where Google sort of penalized that and immediately gave you a lot less traffic organically. Then they said, hey, that may be good to get rid of spammers who just have a one-page website, but some legitimate, great firms have invested in expensive URLs, and that would be wrong, so it bounces back. And what you're seeing here is the same thing. They wanted to get rid of spam, but if you have a firm that happens to have a great name, they don't want to penalize you for that, and we're seeing that rebound.
And again, as a little warning ethics situation, when we're talking about these names that have keywords in them, you're getting a DBA, you're protecting yourself, you're making sure you're doing it properly, you're not just tossing on injury lawyer to the end of your name, right? Most of us in the room, I think, are savvy enough on that. But to Seth's point here, we have some photos too that he'll explain about how we actually saw this with the vicinity update, but a little bit different.
Well, no, it's the same concept. It's expansion and contraction. So Google makes a move. On the left, you're seeing what it was like before. They said, okay, it's now you have to be really close to the pin. Over time, these are 2-month increments approximately. Over time, you're seeing that it sort of went from you couldn't rank unless you're really close to the office, to saying, hey, the best answer may be there. It's not like a pizza. You don't want it 5 minutes away. There may be an answer that's 15 minutes away, and by the time these 4 slides are over, you'll see they've given some love back to people who had a great presence because it was a good answer. It just wasn't as close.
And specifically with the name that it matters, right? People were getting a little penalized towards the beginning of this vicinity update. They had the name of the city in their name, and then kind of were similar to where you were with the proximity, we also saw that you started to get a little bit more traction back with those types of exact match names, but it's not back to where it was. Obviously, the landscape has absolutely changed. So new and local, we're gonna go over a couple of fun things. Any questions on that aspect before we move on? All right. So in local, the 3-pack has been changing so much in the past year, especially from just the viewpoint to even we see 5-packs now, right? The local service ads, I know everybody's thinking that the local 3-pack is gonna go away, but a lot of what getting ranked in that local service ad 3-pack depends on is your local build out. So local's here to stay, in my opinion. If they're trying to make it a 5-pack, it's more the organic that maybe is starting to be less on that page 1. But essentially, we're gonna talk a little bit about those local service ads.
Right, that with a few remaining minutes, short of the 3-pack, the number one point of conversation are the local service ads. The ROI dramatically better than traditional PPC that we're seeing right now, and the goal is to put as much in there as possible. The 2 biggest pieces, budget and responsiveness. If you're running these, make sure that you have some system set up. And a lot of people sort of say, okay, I'm gonna use an answering service. That's great, because theoretically it might be better than your office, but go call your own answering service. If it's not being picked up quickly, you're not gonna get the love. Right now, the game is how much budget can you throw to this? If you could put unlimited money right now, this is where you'd want to be. So it's not a question of like, how much can you get? It's a question of like, can you actually get it? Will Google allow you to have it places like California saturated. I know. Yes, Jeffrey.
You went, great presentation, you went very quickly. Tell us where we are on the chances of the 3-pack going to 5-pack.
I wish that I could give you, sorry, question is a 3-pack, is it going to go into a 5-pack? You know, we are seeing them test it. Like
October.
Like since October, so it's being tested. You know, it's being cynical, they want to make more money. It wouldn't surprise me if they put some paid components at the top of it. And so that would be the likelihood, in my opinion. But, you know, they're testing it. We're seeing, you know, possibilities, but I wouldn't want to.
So you haven't seen it permanently in any location?
Nothing is permanent at this point.
So the other thing there, I would say too, is if you've seen from the history of things, it takes about 2 years from the start of something to seeing guidelines. With this in particular, with LSA rankings, these are black and white in writing now, finally, a year and a half after they came out. Here's how you're supposed to rank, right? So now these guidelines are coming out hot and fast because we're 2 years into LSAs as of July, right? So things are changing all the time, but tips on budget, I think.
Well, I was going to say, before I get to budget, one of the other advantages of the multiple offices, if spread out properly, it's another bite at the LSA piece. Because it may be that they don't love 2 of your offices, but your brand new office that doesn't have a ton of reviews, 5 minimum, that's one of the standards that they've set, that's getting love from LSAs. And if you can spend the money in that 3rd office, who cares where the case comes from, assuming it's not a defective market for some reason, but that assuming you have an office there and you want cases, you don't really care if it's from office A and B. If C is liked in the LSAs, God bless, and get those cases in.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And budget you kind of talked about a little bit, but if you had an
I mean,
extra-
the answer is more the better. It's really, I wish I could be more nuanced, but it's, you know, you want to spend as much as you can and put as much as you feel comfortable up there.
And the reason being especially is that if you put a budget in, Google is going to try to figure out how to make all 4 weeks work with that one budget. It's not thinking weekly. That's why you throw out a higher number, or else you will get less calls and less visibility. So LSA messaging is a big one that helps with responsiveness. It is half the cost of a call. You also get all of the information in that message, and you are able to call them right back, so it can still be a call. If you don't have it turned on, turn it on. It is the biggest piece that you could be missing. And then reviews.
This is sort of interesting. So the reviews, Google is pushing reviews here. There's a second review through the LSAs. It's complicated for PI firms because in theory, how does somebody know how good you are? You haven't gotten them any money yet from day one. But it is something that we're watching carefully. Right now, 5 reviews minimum, but at some point I could easily see, talking about the future, that they're going to want some number of LSA-specific reviews. Right now, we encourage you to go back and make sure that you're logging what cases sign.
Yes.
Everything they allow you to do, you want to take care of. Yes.
On LSAs, do you recommend 9 to 5 or 24 hours?
I mean, they're on LSAs, 9 to 5 or 24 hours. I love the 24 hours just because I don't want somebody at 5:01 seeing you as closed. It's a terrible user experience. But if you're not going to be answering the phone, that's it. You know, having 24 hours is ideal for everybody here who's aggressive. Everybody in this room is here to market and make money. So yes, but you better have a solution for it as far as answering.
Got a question there, green shirt.
Everything that Google is doing, both on PPC and they're pushing us towards their AI. You know, that's part of the reason why smaller PPC budgets isn't working is they're pushing us there. I like to keep control as long as we can, personally. But that said, you know, we're continuously A/B testing if there's something there. But we have not seen that better as of yet.
I might give a little bit of a different answer here too, similar to what he said, but before these guidelines came out in December, I said, go to town, don't pay a management fee, do it in-house, set your manual budget, right? But now that there's all these rules and rules are coming out all the time, it is worth it to have somebody monitoring it at all times. When you use the AI system and you go to the automatic, it's an interest of Google spending your money, not as much as if you had a human looking at it and A/B testing and figuring out where you should reallocate your budget. I know we have 100% saved money when we've done it manually watching it versus using the automatic.
Good answer. Time for one more.
All right, so this is also a QR code, fancy, so if you take a picture of that, or you just pull up your phone. We will send you the presentation. There's a lot of links and information in there. I put a lot of heavy stuff in there that I don't necessarily go over. But again, if you have questions, I will likely be at the bar, but I'm always happy to talk about SEO.
Thank you very much, everybody.
It's really funny. People pull out that many cameras. I just want to smile and stand there. It's like, are they pointing it at me? Well, we're rounding the. Oh, if you just give that to me, that's fine. Oh, absolutely. Picture. Could you put up this picture again? You got it right here. Oh, I thought they wanted a picture with you with that code on there, but just the code. Okay, everybody got it? No, so, okay. We'll give you guys a moment. You don't need this. You're already mic'd. You're good. Everybody good? She wants to grab her mic. Oh, over there, okay. I'm losing control. All right, we're rounding out the day here. We're getting very close to the end. One of the subjects that Vern Harnish talked about is culture. And I know that you've heard a lot about this, but culture is so critically important to the growth of your business and the sustainability. Our next speaker is going to share with you about how to actually and why you should have the right culture in your office. Please help me welcome Mr. Brian Lebovic.
First, let me say thank you. You guys are still here and you're not sleeping. God bless you. I was like, when I heard my speaking time, I thought, all right, it'll be me, it'll be Ken, it'll be Ron, it'll be, I figured it'll be 3 people. So thank you for being here. I will try not to burn your time. I'll try to tell you, like, get to the heart of this as quickly as possible. I'm going to pick up the talk right, is it playing? How do I do that? There we go. Okay. I'm going to pick up the talk basically where Bill Biggs left off. The last couple of slides that Bill talked about was the creation of culture and where that lands you. Like, how do you do that? What does it mean to create culture in your firm? And why is it so important to create culture? Like, what is that? Because culture itself, this concept of it's kind of everything that you do, is a very soft subject. It's you know, that touchy-feely stuff, right? But I read a McKinsey study that came out about a year ago that said that organizational health and cultural alignment is the #1 thing you can do to grow a business. And it's across the board. McKinsey does this over and over and over again. And they see how you can do a lot of things right. You can get the data right. You can do the dashboards right. You can do a lot of things. And if you don't have good culture and you don't have good leadership, you're going to fall apart and you're not going where you need to go. And the other thing that Bill said that's so incredibly true is that the leader of the firm is everything. Without leadership, without clarity of leadership, you're not going to move forward in the practice. So let's talk about how to develop culture. There's 6 steps that I put together to do that. The first step, I don't know if this is working, there we go, is to know yourself. You must know who you are. This is the most important thing as a leader. Everything boils down to this, is understanding who you are, being comfortable with who you are, and being so comfortable with who you are that you can be vulnerable to your team, because without that comfort and vulnerability, people are not going to trust you or follow you. And that means that you have to recognize that you're not good at a lot of things. You may be good at a lot of things, but you're not going to be good at everything, right? And you need to figure out what those things are, and you need to have people in your life, in your firm, that are going to tell you what those things are. So know yourself, all right? I don't know where I point this thing to make it go forward. There we go. Know yourself. If you're not a guy that likes to handle criminal cases, don't do criminal. If you don't like immigrants, don't do immigrants. If you don't like PI clients and you think they're all fraud, don't do PI. Don't do something for money. There's so much money in the world. You can make money at anything you want to do. It's not about money. It's about doing something in the world that you love. It's about finding that thing that you enjoy doing, that suits you, that makes you feel good. This is this finding your ikigai. It's what do you love? What are you good at? What does the world need? And what can be paid for? And when you find those little Venn diagrams, I love Venn diagrams. So when you find the Venn diagram, that middle point that suits your passions, that suits your mission, your profession, then you find things that are good for you, right? All right. Second step. Step 1 is knowing yourself. Step 2, find your leadership team. You need to find people in your life that can handle the workload with you, that will be on the team with you, that will be good at talking to you, that you trust each other. And to do that, you need to do 3 things, right? You need to start with vulnerable disclosures. How do you get there? How do you get vulnerable disclosures? You sit around a room and you talk about things that make you vulnerable. Tell me something about your childhood. Let's talk about the most fun thing we did when we were kids and have everybody talk. And then get deeper, right? And the deeper you get in your questions with people, right, the deeper your relationship will be. There was a study that was done where they had people talk to each other, but part of the experiment was that they had to look in each other's eyes for 5 minutes, right? That's a really hard thing to do. But the level of trust and love that came out of those interactions was superior to everything else they asked about. Just that one thing, right? That super vulnerable uncomfortableness, right? You need to get close with your team, and that means you need to talk. You also get close by doing team building exercises. You go forward and you have somebody come in or figure out a way that you guys can all do something together that binds you as a team. You go bike riding or you go on an Operation Explorer thing. We had a company called Operation Explorer that we hired, and they came in and we did all of this. So I'll tell you a little bit about that later on, what we did personally to make this happen. But team building exercises are really important. And then personality tests. And people say, oh my God, what's psych personality tests? What does that mean? There's a lot of them out there. We use the DISC. The reason you need a personality test is to stop false attribution errors. False attribution errors, we all default to this, right? We falsely attribute bad behavior to people when they act badly instead of to circumstantial evidence. So if we're speeding down the road, it's because we have an emergency to get to or whatever. If somebody cuts you off and speeds in front of you, you're like, that's a jerk. What a bad guy, right? That's a false attribution. He might be running to the hospital because his kid is hurt. You don't know. He's not a terrible person. You don't know that. You do that macro thing that I just said on a micro level to people in your team and in your office all the time. And you hear people do it all the time. And HR professionals are really, really good at spotting it and saying, because they'll have somebody come into the office, right? And they're like, and she did this because, or he said that because, right? When you do the personality test and you understand how people act, then you better understand them and you can attribute that to the way that they communicate. And the better you understand people, the more you trust them, the more you will forgive poor communication. So you've got trust and you've got vulnerability so you feel safe. That's super important, right? And then you have to be able to be nasty. That's really important, right? So there's a line of communication. There's really, really polite, wonderful communication, and there's really, really nasty, terrible communication. And somewhere along the line is this moment when truth becomes ugly, right? And you want to sit right before the ugly line in your team. And that means that you're going to cross the ugly line. Because if you're sitting there, somebody's going to say something awful and regret it. And that means that your team has to have enough safety and enough trust that they can step back over that line, apologize, confront it, and move on from it. And when you do that, then you've got a team that's not going to be beat. Because those people know, like, and trust each other, they love each other, and they're going to move forward with each other, and they're not going to let each other fail. And we've seen that in my firm. So all of this is just personal experience and what I've gone through in the most incredible way. My CEO, I have a CEO in the company. 2.5 years ago, at a leadership retreat, we had a breakdown where she was 8 months pregnant, and I'm having a screaming match with her, and we were in a terrible spot, right? Like, here's this dumb jerk of a man screaming at this poor pregnant lady, making her cry, and we were back and forth with each other, and I thought, she's gone. She's leaving the company. There's no way. We're never coming back from this. And we had to go back, and I apologized. It was, terrible. But she wasn't the CEO at the time. She was just directing the SSD department. And she's come back so strong. We've come back such a strong team because the whole team experienced it. We stepped over the ugly line. We came back from it. I apologized. We moved on from it. And that experience was very binding. Just like a marriage is very binding. When you have an argument, you realize it's not a deal breaker, and you move on. So safety is really important, but being nasty is really important because you can say the things you need to say. Because there's lots of things that you don't say that undermine your team, and if you can't say them, they'll just continue to undermine you. So do your leadership team second. To get good at it, you need to have a meeting cadence. And there's a ton of books that are out there about meeting cadence. And you heard Vern yesterday make a comment about the traction system, that it doesn't do daily huddles. So you need to find what's best for you. If you are a firm that's under $10 million, traction's probably a spectacularly good system for you. If you're a firm that's over $10 million, you're probably feeling like there's more that you want to do to grow your firm, help middle-level management, create better communication in the upflow and downflow, so get better at meetings. There's all sorts of meetings that you need to have. We have annual budgeting. We have annual planning for everybody. Those are two different meetings. We have a quarterly offsite for the leadership team. We have a quarterly offsite that includes the middle management team. We have a weekly leadership tactical meeting. We have weekly one-on-ones between leaders and their coaches, people coaching the people that are on the team underneath them. And then we're trying to institute daily huddles now. And then we have all-hand-on-deck meeting every Friday morning. I have not started stay interviews yet. I gave everybody on my leadership team the book, and we're reading that book now. I read it already, but it's a great book if you haven't read it. Which one? Stay interviews. It's called The Stay Interview, and Ken mentioned it earlier. But all of those meetings, Management Mess, any of the Cameron Herald books for meetings, Scaling Up has an entire system. The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. Can I go backwards? Because I have books on the bottom there that are. Which one? Yeah, absolutely. So there. Yeah, so Great Game of Business is spectacular, has a whole meeting thing on it. I mentioned that earlier. Traction has a thing on meetings, which is the level 10 meetings at your leadership meeting. It doesn't go into too much else, but it's really good if you do your level 10 meetings and you get them right. Death by Meeting by Patrick Lencioni, like Meetings Suck by Cameron Herald, like all of these books are great. Any of them will help you create a meeting cadence that will let your team proceed forward as a great team. Step 3, you need your mission, right? If you ask anyone in my team right now, what do we do? What is your mission, right? They're going to say, we maximize justice by aggressively fighting for our clients' rights. Everybody knows that by rote. The leadership team, because I developed the leadership team, sat and worked on every word of that, right? But all of it, right? Everything, and the next thing is going to be core values. Everything that we do revolves around me. I know that sounds crazy and super egocentric, and maybe it is. But the truth is that the firm, I founded the firm, I had the firm, I was in the firm 25 years, and we were moving forward, but it was who I was. Like it was a distillation of me, right? And then everything sprung from that, and people came in, but it was about what I wanted to be, what I wanted the firm to be. And by accepting that, when we went into our meetings, when we would talk about creating core values, I would hear things from them, like, we think our core values are relentless innovation. That's one of our core values. Why? Because I'm constantly trying to innovate the system. So it came from me being like, why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? Why don't we go over here? Like, the crazy rabbit on crack. Let's try that, let's try that, let's try that. Shiny toy. But the truth is that sprang from me, right? Fight to win, right? Like, I'm the type of person who doesn't let go even when I should. That came from me. And that didn't come from me saying to them, let's make it this way. The leadership team sat and talked. They came up with it. But in retrospect, when I look back, it was who I am. It's who I am because that's what I want the business to be, right? So make a mission statement that means something to you, all right? Make sure it's what you believe in. And don't make it something you want to post. It doesn't matter whether you have it on an advertisement. Don't put it on the wall. Don't do any of these things to do anything more than create organizational health, all right? When I talk to people about it, they're like, oh, well, I want it, and then I'll put it in an ad, and we'll put it up on the wall, and we'll all talk about it. It'll be great. That's not the point. The point is to create organizational health, and it needs to be super sincere and deep. The next thing, so there were some good mission statements here, but these are just fun because they're fun to know. It's easy for your team to recollect them, and it gives them purpose and direction, right? So, you know, like I love this, enable human exploration and settlement on Mars of SpaceX. I'm buying into that mission. I love that concept. All right, then you need your core values. And you want your core values to be really core to the culture that you want to create. Don't pick things that seem important, but that really aren't core values for you, right? For example, some people pick integrity, right? Integrity is a core value. Now, it could be. It could be that that's super ridiculously important to you, that you have to be integral. But what does it mean? You have to behavioralize the core value. You have to be able to say, integrity means we do this, right? Integrity can mean that we interact with our clients and never mislead them about anything, at any way, at any time, and constantly keep them updated with the truth. Maybe that's it. Or maybe integrity is that our machine is built with structural integrity, like a jet plane won't fall apart when it hits turbulence. We will always be there. The integrity of our group will, you know, like behavioralize what you're creating. If you do these open-ended, aspirational, you know, core values, they don't mean anything to anybody. So when we started the process, we had 11 core values. We threw them all out. They meant nothing. No one knew them. No one lived by them. No one thought about them. Profitability was one of them. It's a terrible core value. I mean, I don't know. I thought of it years ago. I was like, well, I want to be profitable. I better make it a core value. So, yeah, and it's not even in my mental thought process when I do things. Because like I said, fight to win is it. And you can really want to fight to win more than you want to be profitable. And that's kind of the way I am. So there's lots of cases I've taken way too far and made no money on. So try to make them fun, cool, make them things people remember, and then you need to behavioralize them. All right? So that's step 5. So how do you behavioralize a core value? How do you get your team to buy into behavioralizing this? You need to do that at a personal, touching level. So you need to have all team discussions. So we did it on Zooms, right? So we'd have everybody in a Zoom and we'd talk about, so we have this core value of relentless innovation, fight to win, own it, passion to serve. Those are our 4. And we'd pick one, and we would ask a question, or we'd give a factual scenario, like a hypothetical. Tell me what passion to serve looks like in this instance, right? And the beauty of this is that when you start behavioralizing your core values, you stop managing the behavior of your team at a micro level. And that's the key to growth in the firm, is that you create behaviors that people can rely on, that they know, this is how we behave here, right? So there's this great story that I read about Tylenol. Does anybody remember way back when we were kids, when I was a kid, that Tylenol had cyanide put into it in the Chicago area, and they like went south as a company, right? It was terrible, right? And when people came to them and said, Tylenol is having this terrible problem, what should we do? It's only in the Chicago area. There were 6 people that went down. They didn't know what to do. They met with the FBI. The FBI said, don't pull your product off the shelves other than in the Chicago area. It's going to cause a national panic. We're going to have a real problem. Let's say it's localized. The core values in Johnson & Johnson at the time, they had something called the Credo. It was a 310-word credo of what it was, and they had been debating, because of the president, whether they were going to keep it. But because of those debates, they recognized that service and protection of the community was part of their core values. And they looked at the FBI and said, no, we're pulling it off the market tomorrow. We're taking it all out. And they recalled it. And people said, that's it. Tylenol's done. Tylenol's done. We're done with Tylenol. It's going to be dead as a product. What happened? They went back. They protected the public. All of those little safety things that happen on pill bottles now are all because of that event, the little safety things and safety, like all of that happened because of that event. Within 6 months, Tylenol was back on the market. Within a year, it was a product leader, and it's been the product leader since, because they stuck with their core values. All right? Hypothetical scenarios, lunch questionnaires and quizzes. We would take people out in small groups at lunch, and it would be the passion to serve lunch, or it would be the relentless innovation lunch. And we would just talk about it, how we were going to handle that, right? And you ask a lot of why questions, like, why do you think we do this? What's important about it? Then you want to cross-behavioralize. So it can't be just the leaders talking down to people. You have to cross-behavioralize. And the way you do that is you create situations where people can reward people for good core value behavior. There's a couple of programs that I listed here. One of them was mentioned earlier called Bonusly. We use Bonusly, so I can speak to it. Paul Harding, if you ever want to call him, uses Cool Leaf. I don't know who uses WorkHuman. Somebody told me it was a good program for cross-behavioralization. It allows your team to give each other rewards for great behavior. So in our team, we give everybody 200 points a month. That goes right through the program. They give each other points when they have good behavior. So if you looked at our Bonusly account, it all runs on like a feed, almost like a Facebook feed, and it says, you know, Natalie gave 20 points to Cynthia for being passion to serve when she did blah, 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 right? And then it gives a little meme, like you can attach a meme to it. It's really cute, right? So it's super fun to watch, super cute. And as you accumulate points, you can't spend the points we give you. You can only spend the points that you accumulate. You have accumulated good behavior points or good core value points, and then you go to the page on rewards, and you can buy a lot of stuff. Like Bonusly has hundreds and hundreds of things that you can buy on the Bonusly page. So including, you know, like Alan said, you can have vacations, you can put days off in, you can do a lot of things with it. And that creates cross-behavioralization. 97% of our staff uses Bonusly. They use it every week, and every week on our all team, we talk to everybody about, you know, who won their Bonuslys this week. The next step is a super important step, and it comes out of the head of the leader, and that is to create the vision. And there are two steps, in my opinion, to creating the vision that I've read about. The first is the short-term step, which is the actual ability to give to your team a picture of who you're going to be in 3 years from now. Not something that you're hoping or believing. Write it in the present tense. If you read Cameron Herold's Vivid Vision, it was a game changer for us, right? Because it took all this great behavior, all this great leadership, all this great teamwork. It distilled it down to who we were going to be in a short period of time. I did it in 5 years. He says in 3 years. And then we want a BHAG, right? This big, hairy, audacious goal. And that comes, you know, from the Jim Collins book, Classic, right? Built to Last. And that is your like gulp. Like, are we really going to go for that, right? Like, are we really going to be the first law firm on Mars? I mean, like, make some goal that's like ridiculous, right? So our big, hairy, audacious goal is 125 million in gross, revenue in 10 years. Big goal, hard goal. You want both of those things. When you do that vision, you know, you can start with like a mind map and you can map it out, but write it as if you're writing it today. Our firm is a 100-person, $25 million Social Security disability firm that helps people all over the country, you know, having offices in 60, you know, locations, something like that. Like, make it very, very clear at every level. All right, so here's the case study, because this is what we did. So I'll tell you who we were and what we did. In 2019, we had gone through, so I'll tell you what we had done, because we had gone through all of those exercises of developing a leadership team, finding our mission, doing our core values, and I got to that point in 2019. And I hired a company called Operation Explorer to come in and evaluate where we were as a team in 2019. So in August of 2019, they conducted this huge poll. I'll show you you won't be able to read it, but you'll see how much work they did. It was like a very significant evaluation, interviews with our team, grading us, right? Out of 10 points, 4.83 was the average in vision, 4.43 was the average in plan, 8.83 was the average in desire. When they did a word map of who we were, there was a lot of good words, but there were also words like political, undermining, gossipy. They were in that word map, right? That's just awful teamwork, awful leadership. That's awful on my part that I allowed it to allow. The alignment that the team felt was awful at that time. And all that's a failure of leadership, and all of that comes back to the main leader, so it's all on me, right? But we did this. We did all of that work. So in the snapshot of the firm at that time was we were $4.5 million in revenue. That was the year before in 2018. We were 31 people. We had one regular team meeting a year. That was the end of the year team meeting. That was it. We didn't really know where we wanted to go tech-wise. HR and training were completely absent. We had no HR. We had no training. We had low lead volumes, and we were scrapping through on all 3 areas of the practice. We were just like SSD, work comp, PI. That we were just barely. We were not in lead abundance. We started to do these local team meetings. We didn't have Bonusly. We didn't know what Zoom was because COVID hadn't hit. We had no quarterly all staffs. We had no team bonuses, and we had no quarterly profit sharing. So that's who we were in 2019. All of that changed as of 19, as of August, right? I came out with a vivid vision. It came out with clear points. It told them who we were going to be. It talked about where we wanted to be within 5 years as a $25 million firm. We talked about what we were going to do in the CBO, our central business office. I own my building, so we wanted that to have a certain value. We committed to culture. We made our communications very clear. We did that Operation Explore. There was a lot of therapy. I felt like it was therapy. We came out of the first session. I was like, I'm firing these freaking people. I can't do this. She was like, this is therapy, Brian. You have to be better. That you can't quit therapy after one session. You just have to let it sink in. It's going to be okay. We agreed on it. We did all of this right before we started this. We got our core values in line. We did the lunch meetings. We talked about roles. We did off-site strategics. I mean, we started doing all of this, team one-on-ones. We do all of the things that I just told you you need to do in those 6 steps, right? I had them come back in to do a secondary response in June of 21. So 2 years, basically, later, 22 months later. They came in, and he sent me, this is the little thing. And he says, I've included the original data for you to peruse. Helpful to look back, but don't stare. Don't stumble on your past. So this is what I got. It compared all of their answers, all of their grading from one session to another. You can't see it, but believe me, it's very detailed and painful to read from the first end. But the next end was not bad. The survey said our vision was 9.2, our plan was 8.0, which has gone up since then because we've been more clear with our team about what we plan to do, and our desire stayed about the same. We created a very healthy culture. People are much happier. And in the Great Resignation, we continue to grow, and we don't lose people we don't want because people are on board with our mission, our vision, and our core values. We've grown from $4.5 million to $15.2 million. We were 77 employees at the end of 21. We're 97 now. My suggestion is that you really think hard about who you are as a firm. Your core values, your leadership team, your ability to work as a team is killing your business if you don't have your culture right. So start there. Don't start at, we want better data, we want better technology, we need more leads. All of that stuff's going to come. You need a better leader for a better business and a better team to follow a better leader. So start with yourself. It's going to pay off big time. Thank you. If there were questions, should I take questions? I didn't want to. I know we're getting.
We got 1 minute, so time for one question.
Is there? Yeah. I use DISC.
DISC.
D-I-S-C. You can use Myers-Briggs. You can use, like there's a million of them. Okay.
You're one of the few that are recognized by the federal government as being, you're allowed to use called the PI, Predictive Index. I'm going to check out. Okay, great. We are now heading into the last presenter of the day. Time to get our energy up in the room, so look around. Look to your right. Look at the person to your right. Now look at the person to your left. Look straight up now. Say, God, thank you so much. Play with me. God, thank you so much. Then I'm better looking than they are. You got to have a little humor at the end of the day. All right. Here to talk about how to bulletproof your marketing in your law office. Please help me welcome, and let's get the room really ramped up because it's the last presenter of the day, Ms. Cassidy Lewis.
Thank you. You did it. You made it to the last speaker of the Super Summit for 2022. Congratulations. Yes. And Ken said it. Somebody asked me, they said, are you mad that you're the last speaker? I said, what? He saved the best for last. Hi, everybody. My name is Cassidy Lewis. If I look familiar, but you can't place me, Pilmma has placed my face a few different places. I run the monthly marketing roundtable, and I also do some pieces in the magazine. They didn't tell me they were going to put my face. I just got an email and a call at the same time from my boss. Cassidy, check your email. Your face is there. So this is kind of where you remember me. Okay. So I've been currently at my law firm for almost 5 years. I'm the chief marketing officer. I have about 14 years of marketing experience in several different industries. I own my own marketing firm. So everything from churches, wow, that was fun. Churches, politics, nonprofit, you name it. And then I manage a 5-person marketing team. I know that I am stopping you either from Bourbon Street or a flight, so I'm going to try to be as concise as possible, but I really do welcome questions. I love talking this stuff. So I have both my undergraduate and my master's degree in marketing. My master's is in digital marketing. I want to talk a little bit about mindset for when you're setting up your marketing strategies and your deployable campaigns, okay? Each well-thought-out marketing strategy consists of 3 main things. So it's pre-strategy, formal or informal research, end strategy, those are those deployable campaigns, okay? And then post-strategy, KPIs, what's next? I am going to talk about this from 3 different pools that we market from, right? So intakes, which is the obvious one, clients, and then attorneys. So firstly, for intake research, these are some of the things that we do. What cities or areas within your city do your clients come from? So if you're just in one city, do you know what zip codes? Do you know what neighborhoods your clients come from? You're able to dump your intake data into USPS to figure out household income and average family size. If you do PI, is there an intersection where you see more accidents? What intersections in your cities have the most accidents? You can get that info from dmv.com. It's .org. Oh, I'm going to have clicker issues. Okay. Client research. So the obvious ones are client experience surveys. What your cadence is what your cadence is. I won't get into it. Here's something interesting, though. I'm really, really big on client journey. If I had to pick a piece of marketing that I love the most, it's client journey, it's client experience. At what point in the case do your clients complain the most? Does anybody know that? Okay. Or from the first time they call. List the top 10 clients that refer you the most cases in the last 3 years. Do you know your top referral sources by name? Do they know you by name if you're the managing partner? How many or what percentage of clients or people in your database refer you clients? So if you got 1,000 people, do only 100 refer you clients? Oh, I did not want clicker. I was laughing at y'all with clicker problems, and it's me. Attorney research. We have a very robust attorney referral marketing program. The 80-20 rule definitely applies to us for attorney referral cases. 20% of our clients come from attorneys, and they can easily make up about 80% of our revenue. How many attorneys refer you cases each month, each year? Which practice areas refer you the most cases? How much do you provide in attorney referral fees? And how much do you receive in attorney referral fees? It's my nails, I'm convinced. Okay, also another thing that I encourage people to do for research are focus groups. Now I like this really for when you're at the stage when you are branding. This is not something that you do annually. I would suggest these maybe once a decade, maybe every 5-7 years. But when you are saying, I'm about to get on TV, I'm about to spend, you know, $50,000 on TV, $100,000 on TV, whatever it is, I'm about to spend this much on TV. You don't want to go in there and not understand how your community thinks. And my focus group can sound and look completely different than your focus group in a different city, right? My culture may be different than your culture. All right, quick story time. My last class in my master's program, my professor had us become the chief marketing officers of failed companies. At first, I thought it was cool, right? Until it was like 11-page papers every single week, in addition to the other stuff that we had going on. Does anybody know what the device is on the right? I'm going to age you. What? That's the left one. Yes! It is an Apple Newton. All right, so one of the companies that I picked was, one of the products that I picked was the Apple Newton. So the Apple Newton was outstanding, okay? You could literally do everything. You could do budgets, you could do Excel, you could play games, you could do faxes, phone calls. It was outstanding. The founder of Palm Pilot came, and he decided that he wanted to enter the market as well. But he was going to do some research before he made his product. What he did was he walked around with a block of wood and shaved it down until it became a comfortable size in his hand. And that's how the size of the Palm Pilot was birthed. And that was one big thing. But also, he did research for the traveling executives to figure out, well, what do you actually do when you're on a plane with your device, with your portable device? What are you actually doing? Are you really doing a budget? No. Nobody wants to do a budget on that size screen. Are you really playing games? No, I'm a traveling executive, right? So he decreased the size of his portable device, and he stripped probably about half of what the Apple Newton offered. By all means, the Apple Newton was a better product than the Palm Pilot. But the founder of Palm Pilot did his research. This is the piece that's often missing when I talk and I mentor marketers. Did you do your research before you built that campaign? Did you look into it at all? Within 3 years, I'm trying to remember my paper now. Within 3 years of Palm Pilot entering the market, Apple Newton came off because Palm Pilot dominated the market. It was the same thing for almost every organization that I became the CMO of. Nike had an exercise band. And the customers kept saying, hey, it'd be really cool if you put a clock up here. And Nike was like, no, you don't need that. We'll make it smart. We'll make it smaller. And Fitbit said, hey, look, I'll give you a watch as well. Fitbit ended up dominating the market. Do not forget your research. Is it me? Am I the drama? Oh, how do I go back? All right, so we're going to talk about some deployable campaigns as well. So we found out, so we operate in a region of 7 cities, and the region, like if you live in Norfolk, you don't travel to Suffolk. If you live in Suffolk, you don't travel to Virginia Beach. We live in one of those regions, so we're the law firm in the area. We have 8 locations and yada, yada, yada. So when I first came in, I remember doing just some what I consider basic geo research. And we found out that Chesapeake was we were killing in Chesapeake, and we didn't really know why. I think there are a lot of times that I want to know why. At this point in time, I did not care why. We soon found out that there wasn't a dominant PI lawyer. There is a good amount of people in the city, et cetera, et cetera. I just deployed campaigns. So we do very specific Facebook campaigns to people in Chesapeake. We use their neighborhood names. We donate to schools. We have an attorney in one of the partners. He is from Chesapeake, and I call him Mr. Chesapeake. But we are as specific as possible to Chesapeake. So these billboards are all through Chesapeake. We send out mailers to different neighborhoods every month in Chesapeake. And everything is Call Your Neighbor, Mr. Bill Omar Jr. We donate to the schools in that area. I should get extra time since I'm having clicker issues. Okay. Do your Google My Business research. You guys know that. Who's the top dog in that area? Can you get more reviews than him or her? Should you have a meeting location there? Nalini and Seth just talked about that. Get backlinks from nonprofits in that zip code. There is merit to having backlinks from companies in your zip code. The easiest way to do that is via nonprofits. If I have enough time, I will tell you about Vote for Our Cause. It is our flagship program. Do a food truck in that neighborhood. My dream is that a food truck will ride down my street like an ice cream truck. Please do this. It is on my to-do list. I would love to see it get done. All right, so if you do PIs, there an intersection where you see more accidents. And what I'm doing is I'm showing you the research done and then the campaign that we've done with it. So one thing that you need to do, or you should do, is if you know the intersections where a lot of accidents happen in your city, give that information to your intake specialist. So when that next intake calls that had an accident at that intersection or on that street, they can say, oh my gosh, we've seen so many accidents there. We get so many calls. It's a terrible place. They need to do something about that, right? And it gives your intake specialist, whoever's taking that call, that little extra bit of help. This is some content that we put out. Again, because we have that 7 cities, I market to every city as differently as I can. So this is the piece that went out on social media. We did top most dangerous intersections in Norfolk. And this is just a piece that gets shared a lot. People just like it. If they start asking questions, we come in and we answer them, direct them to our website. So focus group. So we did a focus group. And we found out some really, really good information about what we had going on. And the focus group shaped our Super Bowl commercial. So this year made the 2nd year that we had a commercial in the Super Bowl. And we skew women, right? And we think that's primarily because a woman is more likely to go get seen after she's been injured, right? We skew women slightly. We found out that for our area, men wanted, it wasn't there a hammer here. They loved, we have a hammer in our area. They love the hammer because they want the cash right now. And I'm hurt, and I want the person that hurt me to be hurt. But women didn't even like to see the attorneys on the screen, right? Our focus group shaped our Super Bowl commercial campaign and what's currently running on TV. And the commercials themselves were just outstanding. This is TJ. She cried. And it was genuine. She cried like the whole time. I was crying, and I was supposed to be asking the questions. I did terrible. But the commercials are outstanding. Okay, so for client strategy. So I told you guys that you need to make sure that you're doing client experience surveys, right? So one thing that we found out from our surveys was that as much as clients loved their paralegals, they didn't trust them. Not they thought they were liars, but they wanted to hear from their attorney more. I'm sure that you guys have gotten some version of that. So this is what we just did. I can't actually tell you if it works or not yet. We literally just launched it. So go to your email client and create an email that looks like it's from you, the attorney or the attorney on the case. So for example, ours is jimhurley@cooperhurley.com. It is not his regular email address. And we put them in a drip campaign, and it is a basic email that goes out that says, I hope you're doing well, I'm just checking in. The drip campaign lasts for a full year, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are 7 emails in that. One of those is a voice note, and it says, hey, I got in the office this morning, and I just want to let you know we're working hard on your case, and it's just an attachment. And when they respond, that does get forwarded to the lawyer so that the lawyer or the team can respond. This was another interesting one. At one point in time, do your clients complain the most? So we found out that about the time they finish physical therapy, especially for the smaller cases, is when they're like, okay, I'm done with physical therapy, where's my money? Huh? We are worlds away from that. So it's about 3 months for us, okay? They finished physical therapy. And so we created a system where we send them a gift from their team. And it's a system, right? So it's already that we have a director of client services in-house. And so she creates what we call the movie night gift boxes. And this is a client with it. And it has a blanket from Cooper Hurley Injury Lawyers. It has popcorn. It has like movie-size candy. And it says, look, this has been a rough 3 months for you. We know it. We want you to take tonight off and relax on us. Favorite thing in the world. Everybody's doing birthday cards, you guys. And we do birthday text messages where it's a video from us. But everybody's doing some of that stuff. What can you do that's a little bit different? We also do something called a Settlversary gift. We found out from talking to clients that they really focus on the date when their car accident happened, right? That's the date, especially for the larger cases, that they narrowly escaped death. They have tattoos of the date. Like, it really means a lot to them. So we started doing Settlversary gifts, right? And so we want to talk about the date that it all ended for you. All of the drama of the case ended for you. We got you your check. It's been a year since we got you your check, and we're still here for you. How many clients? Oh, list the top 10 clients that refer you the most cases in the last 3 years. Find out why this is. One of our top referrals is a member of a motorcycle club. She's just my favorite person. I know her first name. I know her last name. I know a whole bunch of things about her. She referred us 3 A cases while she was still a client. How many clients or people in your database refer you clients? Use this huge number in your marketing. I'm a numbers person. I'm one of the marketers that's a numbers person. If I can be quantitative, I will. And yes. So this was a mix of the Chesapeake campaign. So we sent out a letter to as many people in Chesapeake that we could. And it said last year, over 280 of our Chesapeake neighbors called my firm to help them after their accidents. People trust people who other people trust. Also, if you're doing mailers to a specific city or geo, do them as every door direct mailers. It'll cut your postage by half. If I had a soapbox right here and not where I almost tripped to my death, it would talk all about customers and clients, right? As marketers, and I'm guilty, as marketers, as advertisers, we talk a lot about the UVP, the USP, and it's great. But the one thing that I have that my competitors do not, I got 2 of my friends in the room with me, are my clients. They can't do what I do because I have my clients and they have their clients. You cannot just focus on intake. You cannot just place all of your efforts on getting them in the door. And you can't just say that, oh, well, all of our paralegals are really nice. There's got to be a system to the things that you do. There's got to be a client experience plan. Your clients are your unfair advantage. I am a little bit, maybe a lot of bit, of a control freak. That's the one thing I can control. The vicinity update that Seth and Nalini were talking about, it cut our internet intakes by like 25% easily. I think one of their screenshots was of me, and I was upset because I still have PTSD. Geico has a rule with our billboard company that PI companies can't be within like a certain radius of a Geico billboard, right? Organic Facebook no longer exists. I can't control any of that. I can control a systemized client experience, and therefore I have much more control over the referrals that I receive. Yeah, client strategy is essential to your bottom line. All right, again, I work on attorney strategies a lot. So how many attorneys refer you cases each month or each year? Similarly to clients, attorneys trust firms that other attorneys trust. And this is really good for the people that may not be the 800-pound gorilla in the room. What can you quantify? So we rolled out this campaign last year, and it's the injury firm attorneys trust. The letter that went with it actually had a number. I wanted to say your favorite attorney's favorite attorney, but I got shot down. Which practice areas refer you the most cases? Funny story, me and the partner that work on attorney referral marketing together, we just knew we were going to campaign to smaller PI shops and say, hey, give us your big PI cases. We'll handle all the fees. Don't you worry. We'll co-counsel, whatever it is. We just knew. We built a whole plan for this, right? We found out, we ended up taking, he's now of counsel, but he was a smaller PI shop. He works with our firm. We wanted to tell him all about it because we had all these grand ideas. And we told him about it. We talked. Me and Baker, we talked. We were just going back and forth for 4 or 5 minutes. And Mike, the guy that owned the smaller PI shop, he kind of sat back. He said, you know that's offensive, right? Why? Why do you say that? He said, am I not competent enough to take the big cases? I can go get a loan for some money. I was like, oh, we didn't know because I hadn't done my research. I did my research. I found out it's not smaller PI firms that are handing us a bunch of cases. It's everything else. It's criminal. It's family. And you look back, and I told Baker, you look back, well, duh, right? But I hadn't done the research. 10 minutes? Okay. How much do you provide in attorney referral fees? I almost thought I was going to lose my job over this one, guys. I didn't tell my partners that I was going to do this. Well, okay, I would never put it out without showing them first. But I went and looked at all of the attorney referral fees that we received for, I think the first time I did this may have been 19. Added it up and created the ad and said, boom, I got our next one. They've never seen it at this time. They had never seen an ad like that, and we all just freaked out. Like, when they freaked out, I kind of freaked out, and so we're all just freaking out together. Like, well, what does the Virginia State Bar say about this? Well, I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. You ask. Well, you go ask. You're the marketer. I don't know what to say. They approved it. So check with your state bar. If you give out attorney referral fees, put a number on it and market it everywhere. I put it in Virginia Lawyers Weekly, our state bar magazine, the local stuff, LinkedIn, nothing that clients really see, but anywhere our attorney friends are, we put this literally everywhere. All you have to have, which is not shown here, is a disclaimer that says that we gave those fees ethically. Oh, I went back. Oh, sorry. Also, how much do you receive in attorney referral fees? So we actually refer out those smaller cases, and we'll probably make about $200,000 this year. Again, another smaller PI cases. A good way that and for one of them in particular, when he has big cases, he does give them to us. So it's some good referral, it's a good referral partnership. All right, so post-strategy KPIs and steps. One, because it was really difficult to screenshot KPIs, and two, because Craig did an outstanding job talking about it. I don't have a slide that specifically talks about what KPIs we measure. I want you to change your mindset when it comes to KPIs. People often will say, I want more attorney referrals, so I'm going to measure how many attorney referrals we get. And that's not it. What you instead need to measure are the steps to get there. Do you know in a given month how many of your attorneys have taken another attorney out to lunch? Do you know how many text messages they've sent their attorney friends? Do you know how many cocktail hours they've done, how many attorney networking events, how many CLEs? What are you quantifying? You cannot just quantify the last thing that you want. What gets measured gets managed. So determine what you want to increase, figure out which steps are measurable, and make those steps KPIs. It's the same thing for systemizing your client experience. For your legal teams, do you know how many gifts they've sent out to clients every month? It's difficult, right? Because you assume everybody's really nice. But for the paralegals that are listening that, hey, I just found out that my client had a bad day. Can we send them some flowers? All they have to do is email the marketing team, and it's out immediately. Hey, I just found out that my client's little one graduated kindergarten. She's getting a whole edible arrangement, that little sweet 6-year-old. Also make sure that your legal teams have the flexibility to do that. So yes, and then people always ask, like, what's your thing? Like, how do you do and what's next? It's to redo it all. Create a strategy that works and redo it all. Go back to research and say, does that research still stand true? Look at your campaign. Does that campaign still make sense? Right? Look over your KPIs. Are those steps still needed? Do I still need to measure those steps? Okay, you guys, again, my name is Cassidy Lewis. I hope to see you guys at the next marketing roundtable. Send your marketing staff if you're the attorney that handles the marketing. We are the third Wednesday of every month at 2 o'clock. You can always email me at clewis@cooperhurley.com. Thank you, guys. Oh. Do I have time for questions? Yeah, you do. Heck yeah, I do. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Who are the 5 people that work on your team? Sure, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer. I have a Director of Client Services, and she does just that. She manages client services, things like those gifts, reviews. She checks in on A and B clients. I have a creative coordinator, a lot of videography, photography, graphics, and content. I have a marketing assistant that fills in a lot of gaps, and a digital marketing specialist. Are there any other questions? No? All right, well, thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Cassidy. All right, before you go, first of all, I want to thank you so much for being an absolutely incredible group. This is probably the best Pilmma Super Summit that I've been to this week. Up on the screen, you'll see my email address. Many people are asking me to get the free year of book summaries. Here's my email address. You can copy it down. It'll be up here for a few minutes. I want you to do me a favor and put your hands together and show appreciation for Ken, the entire team, our AV staff, for doing an incredible job. Again, my name is Dr. Ron Eccles. Thank you so much. If you like what I had to say, please remember my name. If you don't, my name is Vern Harnish. We'll see you next year.